on the car, whether it's the A-arms or upright, we're not sure. And we're riding along with Paul Tracy right now. You can see the car on your left, the 26, and Marco Andretti also went through the grass. Anytime you have a tight...
All right, let's get your thoughts on what we look for in today's race.
Well, we've already been on board with Paul Tracy for a moment. You know, Paul is here to make a statement. He's not here to make friends. He felt that he was left out when the merger happened. Believe that he has the opportunity to be a driver here full-time in the IndyCar Series. Tony Kanaan, 4th, 5th, or 6th, somewhere along there.
We're on board with Paul Tracy, who has moved up to 10th position. So he has increased his standing by 5, started in 15th position. Up ahead of him is Ryan Hunter-Reay. That, of course, is a car that was entered by Vision Racing, but for all practical purposes is being prepared by Walker Racing. Our ethanol edge shows him with 3 poles, 5 wins, 17 top 5s, and 467 laps led in open wheel competition in his home country of Canada. That's Ryan Hunter-Reay just up ahead, and then Dan Weldon ahead of him.
You know, Paul's running speeds right now, Bob, that are probably about 2 seconds faster than at least the next 4 cars in front of him. So he just has to make good decisions on the racetrack, catch the traffic at the right time, but most importantly, have patience. He's got to get to the end.
Paul Tracy's first start in open wheel competition this year. Paul Tracy, of course, was contracted to another team that did not choose to make the transition to the IndyCar Series. And so we asked Paul earlier in the weekend about proving himself and getting back into competition.
The frustrating part for me is, is that I think people were expecting that I should come and pay my dues again and hang out and wait around the garage for somebody to crash or get in bad equipment and try to prove myself again. And really, I said, I'm not going to do that. I know what I'm capable of doing if I'm in a good team. And I waited for the right opportunity, working with Derek and obviously with Subway coming on board, and we've come right out of the box with 0 preparation.
Well, we talked about this during our qualifying show yesterday, Scott. I don't know anybody that wouldn't like to see Paul Tracy in the IndyCar Series full-time. Not only is he a great competitor, but he's a colorful guy.
Really is, and he's 39 years of age right now, so is he going to get picked up by a younger team or a team that's looking for younger drivers? Maybe not, but for the Vision team right now that needs a road course veteran, Jan Beekes, this might just be the right selection for a team that really does need help on road courses.
Good point, Scott, and for those that watched the qualifying coverage on ESPN 360, you'll know that Paul Tracy had made a statement all through the weekend. He was fast right off of the trailer, but they put too much fuel into the car in qualifying, and it's 7 pounds a gallon of this ethanol fuel. He said he had 4 extra laps. What had happened is they had just put the fuel into the car, then there was a full course caution. Only a couple of laps left in qualifying. He actually did a time fast enough to get into the top 12, but after the checkered flag, they took it away. So that 15th starting position, certainly not representative. Now we're seeing the kind of speed that Paul Tracy has in the Subway entry.
And Jan, you know from driving these cars yourself, that extra weight in the car from the fuel certainly makes a huge difference, especially when you're running speeds that these guys are running that are so close, and just sometimes 1/10 of a second means the difference whether you get in or out. And Bob, I think that was probably a disappointment for Paul yesterday, but he had to know that today with the race is what people are going to be watching for and remembering.
So while Paul Tracy runs in 10th position, the pit
out of the pit lane.
And we understand that Paul Tracy may have had a problem leaving the pit area.
Like maybe just a delay on the right rear, possibly. Nope. He's going to try out some of the Edmonton real estate.
Jan, what happened down there?
He did that right as he went past our position near Justin Wilson, and he wasn't driving out there for fun. He was going around another car that was pulling out in fast lane. So thankfully, no harm, no foul. Now, funny enough, he has also lost radio communication. He can hear the team, but he cannot communicate back. So during that pit stop, they use hand signals and determine that Paul Tracy doesn't want any changes on that car at the moment.
He's dropped back to 14th position. That's Bruno Junqueira running right ahead of him, and behind him is A.J. Foyt, the 4th. So Paul Tracy did indeed lose some positions on that pit stop. 23 of 95 laps completed in this race, so just don't want to give up the position.
And I agree. I mean, as a race driver, you never want to let over. Now, if this was maybe 10 laps left to go, there might be other issues, but I just want to be around the transporter lane today when it's all over.
Paul Tracy is having a very, very respectable race. He is up to 8th position. Once again, this is a Vision Racing entry prepared by Derek Walker Racing, and let's hope that Derek is able to put something together for the 2009 season. Since the restart, Tracy has gained the most positions, 3. Jan Beekes.
And Paul Tracy not having any issues with his teammates at the moment. His only issue continues to be the radio. They're using hand signals to try and get his fuel mileage where they want it. So Paul Tracy with some lockup into turn number 1. He's pushing really hard, Scott, at the same time trying to save fuel. They've told him as best they can on the pit board, Paul, we have to save fuel during this segment. So we may see more speed out of Paul Tracy once they turn him loose with the fuel numbers.
Well, and Jan, he is just using that car right now, bouncing off all the curbs. It sort of reminds me of watching him at places like Surfer's Paradise, where he not only just sort of gives over the curb, he launches them. Remember in qualifying yesterday, Bob, I mean, he actually didn't go over it with the suspension of the side pod. He went over the curb with the center of the nose. I mean, he was getting full points for that.
But that's one of the things I like about Paul Tracy. He will give you 100%, 100% of the time. Well, let's go back and relive the last couple of days and see some of the incidents that Paul has been involved in.
You know, you can't fault him for this because he's trying to get up to speed for teams and drivers that have been running 12, 13 races so far this year. Remember, he did run Long Beach, but in a different format, with a different car and a different engine. His first time in this car and engine program, and with a team that is also entering for the very first time as we see him launch over the curbs again. So, you know, I think if you have to give, you know, any type of award here this weekend to driver and team, it has to go to Paul Tracy and also to Derek Walker.
Absolutely. His finishes here at Edmonton, his best finish was in 2005, a 3rd, and the other 2 years he competed here in 2006 and 2007, he finished in 5th position. Sure has. All 3 days have been very, very well attended. Paul Tracy back to 10th position. Here is his pit stop, and oh man, a very close call with Danica. Ryan Hunter-Reay.
It really is a narrow pit lane in the sense that the lanes are very narrow. You have obviously the area you do your service work in your pit box, and then you have a transfer over lane, and then you have the high-speed lane. And Jan Beekes, Paul Tracy just ran out a little bit of real estate there.
Well, part of the problem is, you heard me say he has the very first pit because they assign the pits on owners' points, and obviously they have none. It's their very first race, and so when you're leaving the pits, you have to kind of play dodgeball for those that are pulling out, and they're trying to swing around tires, and sometimes they do get in that fast lane. The good news is, even with all that ducking and weaving, he picked up 2 spots on those who did stop. The only problem for Paul Tracy, they have tried to tell him as best they can on the pit board, you got to save more fuel. Have to find a way. And Scott, as you know, you need experience to save fuel in these cars. It's not just the fuel mixture. You got to know the special tricks for each type of engine.
And that's what we were talking about before, about how you drive it. And Paul Tracy, I'm sure, has talked to a lot of people to try to find what you need to do. But now he's just warming his tires up, and he's looking to go green, Bob.
Tony Kanaan did not pit, and so he is the leader of the race as the field gets set to take the green flag once again. Paul Tracy running there in the 10th position. That's hot on his heels. Here we go. Dan Weldon is 3rd, and look who is in 4th position, Paul Tracy. Justin Wilson running back there in 5th, then Serbia, Junqueira. Danica Patrick appears in the top 10. She's 8th right now. Marco is 9th, and back to 3rd here. That is Dan Weldon. He's 5.7 seconds behind. Now, Oriol Serbia has been on the move recently. He's gone around Paul Tracy, so Serbia is in 4th, and Paul Tracy is in 5th position. Jan?
And now Paul Tracy's getting some heat from behind from Justin Wilson. Just checked in with the team and said, are you still saving fuel or have you turned him loose? Remember, he has no radio communications. So the team said, well, Paul has simply decided to run his own race. So he's not getting, either he's not heating or not able to save the kind of fuel that he thought earlier, and now he's just trying to get whatever he can and stay ahead of Justin Wilson.
Well, in any case, it's been a very impressive performance. On board with Paul Tracy, running in 5th position, about 20 seconds back of Scott Dixon. Tracy can walk out of here with his head held high. Great outing for Vision Racing and Walker Racing also that prepared the car. Paul with Subway sponsorship.
What they were hoping for was a good effort here and a good display and a good finish, which they have had, and hopefully he stays on track for 5th here to the end, and they're hoping to maybe do another event or 2 later in the season. But you know how difficult this was to come and sit in a car with these teams and drivers that have been just doing this all season long, and then to come in here and run on their pace and be very competitive. And I'll tell you that every other driver out there knows that if Paul Tracy's here full time, he will be a contender for the championship next year.
Well, that's right, and that's one of the reasons why I'd love to see him get into the series full time. Let's hope that something comes together here. Dan Well, Scott Dixon winning over Elio Castro-Neves. Justin Wilson finishes 3rd. Paul Tracy to 4th, and Oriol Serbia finishes in 5th position. Now let's take